The most dangerous lie in finance is not that new technology changes everything. That part is often true, but the lie is what people quietly smuggle in. If millions of people use something, the money will eventually sort itself out. No, sometimes scale is not proof of strength. Sometimes scale is just a larger furnace to burn cash in. Start with the image nobody wants to stare at too long. The CEO of the most hyped AI company on earth says it out loud. The $200 a month plan loses money on every single customer. Not later, and not in some temporary launch window. And this is where most smart viewers get trapped, because the story sounds familiar. Huge adoption, viral growth, category-defining product, and fear from competitors. Look at how fast the spell took hold on November 30th, 2022. An ordinary Wednesday, coffee cups on desks, engineers fixing bugs. That is how bubbles work. They do not begin with obvious fraud. They begin with a real breakthrough that makes disciplined people suspend discipline. You can almost see the scene inside the boardrooms. Google's panic tells you everything. They had the underlying breakthrough. Their names were on the Transformer research. They had the talent, the infrastructure, and the head start. And still they froze. But why? That is the false religion I want to break right now. The belief that demand automatically means a durable business. It does not, because demand only proves desire. And if that sounds extreme, good, it absolutely should. Because once an entire market starts rewarding unprofitable adoption, as if it were profit itself, you are no longer investing in execution. And the cost was hiding in plain sight inside those chips. A top-tier H100 GPU rented for about $3 an hour. That number is dangerous because it sounds so harmless. $3 feels like a coffee or an app subscription, like something way too small to even matter. But no serious startup uses one, they need hundreds. So take a modest cluster of 500 chips, and the math changes character. That becomes $1,500 every single hour. Leave it running for a day and you are at $36,000. Keep doing that for a month and you are over $1.1 million. Just to rent the compute power. Not for payroll, and not for office space. Now picture the founder in a glass meeting room saying they are iterating quickly. In real life, that means a meter burning at $1,500 an hour, while engineers wait for a training job to finish, fail, and restart. Just to burn through another long night. A single wrong assumption is not just intellectually expensive, it is financially volcanic. And while that meter was spinning, companies were still hoarding GPUs. Like survivalists hoard canned food before a disaster. Nvidia could not make enough, the waiting list stretched to 12 months. An entire year of just waiting. When shortages get that bad, black markets appear. And they certainly did. That alone tells you the real story. People do not smuggle ordinary inputs across borders, unless the economics have become warped beyond reason. By 2024, the label got slapped onto absolutely everything. Your toaster was AI-powered, and your calendar used algorithms. Your grocery self-checkout was suddenly machine learning, because apparently a camera needed a valuation upgrade. Then came the line that should have frozen the room in January 2025. Sam Altman, the public face of the boom, says the insane thing out loud. OpenAI is losing money on Pro subscriptions because people use it more than expected. Read that again slowly. The company charges $200 per month for Pro, and it loses money on every single subscriber. So success does not heal the business. Success deepens the wound. More customers, more usage, and more losses. And it gets worse when you remember how the pricing started. ChatGPT Plus launched at $20 per month. The strategy was basically to test two prices, $20 and $42, just to see which one triggered fewer complaints. No serious cost foundation, and no stable map from usage to margin. Just consumer tolerance first, and economics later. that works great right up until heavy users show up and actually use the product you sold them. So the bubble was never just about hype. It was about a machine that could look magical to users, while being brutally expensive underneath. That gap is the whole problem. On the surface, it is frictionless intelligence. Underneath it is $3 an hour per chip, and 500 chip clusters, $36,000 days, and $1.1 million months, and even a $200 subscription still failing to cover the tab. Once you see the ledger that way, the celebration sounds different. Here is the part people hate, because it turns the whole story from innovation into ownership. The public gets sold a clean little myth. Work hard, learn AI, subscribe early, adapt fast, and you will be on the winning side. But when you follow the money, the rewards are not flowing to the people doing the adapting, and that somewhere else is where the hierarchy appears. Revenue in 2024 was $3.7 billion, but losses were $5 billion. That is not a business standing on its own feet. That is a machine consuming cash faster than it can turn attention into earnings. So who absorbs the gap? That is why the scale matters so much. By 2030, AI infrastructure is projected to require $6.7 trillion. Of that, $5.2 trillion goes directly into AI infrastructure itself. GPUs, accelerators, cooling systems, power upgrades, and data center construction. Another $1.5 trillion goes into the traditional cloud backbone, needed to carry all of it. This is not just software, this is concrete, copper, and transformers. Chillers, warehouses full of servers, and utility negotiations. You can almost hear the hum of the fans, and feel the heat coming off the racks. And notice who gets treated as expendable in that arrangement. The public is encouraged to think in terms of AI users and AI builders, as if participation itself equals ownership. A freelancer using an assistant to finish client work faster is not in the same class as the company selling the picks and shovels. A junior employee told to be more productive with AI is not sharing in the upside when margins improve. They are just expected to produce more in the same amount of time, under the same salary, with the same rent due on the first. Productivity gains get privatized upward. That's the dirty secret inside the optimism. The industry needs roughly $2 trillion in annual revenue by 2030 to justify these costs, while current AI revenue is around $200 billion. A tenfold gap. So when people say demand is real, maybe. But demand from whom, at what price, and with what margin? Because there's a huge difference between curious users and millions of profitable customers. So the burden quietly shifts to whoever can believe the story longest. That's why private investors have poured hundreds of billions into AI startups since 2021, with most of it concentrating into just 10 companies, whose combined valuations ballooned by nearly $1 trillion. Concentration is the tell. In a real democratized boom, value would spread. Here it pools. A tiny number of firms capture the capital and the talent. They capture the infrastructure access and the narrative oxygen. And while all this is happening, the product itself is still wobbling. Hallucinated papers, fake legal cases, made-up statistics, and search results from another universe. Google's AI telling people to put glue on pizza because it scraped a Reddit joke. That's not a small bug, that's a reminder. The people taking reputational risk are often not the people holding the equity. That is the split if you own the infrastructure, the shares, or the bottleneck. This chaos can still look like opportunity. If you only own your time, your paycheck, and a monthly subscription, you are much closer to the part of the machine that gets squeezed. The ugly part is not predicting the exact day this breaks. The useful part is making sure you aren't standing under the shelf when it does. So don't build your financial behavior around guessing the pop. Build it around one boring rule. Every time you hear a headline about an AI company raising billions, launching a miracle model, or getting sued into the next century. Open your Notes app or a plain spreadsheet and write down just 3 things. Who is paying, who is losing money, who is legally exposed? That's it. Because that tiny habit does something most people never do. It forces you out of spectator mode and into cash flow mode. The story on the screen says, "Revolution." Your little sheet asks to see the bill. Is the customer real? Or is this another company paying with venture money? Is the product profitable? Or is it one of those businesses that looks magical? Until you notice every extra user deepens the hole. Is the legal risk background noise? Or is there a real chance that the training data or the licensing fight become a future invoice? Once you start writing it down, the glamour drains fast. And make it mechanical. Same place, same format, same 3 prompts every single time. Sunday night, kitchen table, laptop open. Bank app in one tab, your AI reality check note in the other. 5 minutes, you are not researching the entire industry. You are interrupting the oldest wealth-killing impulse in finance, confusing popularity with durability. Most people lose money long before a bubble bursts. If you invest, add one more rule that is even more boring. No buy decision on the same day as the headline. Never delay 24 hours. That pause is not about being cautious in some noble philosophical sense. It's about giving your nervous system time to come down from the chemical hit of urgency. Hype speeds up your hand. This sounds almost insultingly small. But that is exactly why it works. Big promises do not break bad habits. Tiny friction does. 1 note, 3 questions, 1 day delay. That is how you stop lending your attention, and eventually your money, to stories that have not yet learned how to pay their own bills. And that is the only promise worth making at the end of a mania. Not that you will catch the top, or get rich before the lights flicker, but that you can leave with your skin intact. Because bubbles do not kill people for being early. They kill people for being trapped when the cash window slams shut. The real edge is not prophecy, so if you're watching this as an investor, or an employee, founder, or somebody with retirement money hiding inside index funds, you need to act accordingly. Assume the music can keep playing longer than your patience. Assume the headlines can stay euphoric while the unit economics still look ugly. And build your life so you do not need one more funding round, one more earnings beat, or one more transformational product launch to survive the month. That means cash you can touch and lower fixed burn. Because when the turn comes, it rarely feels cinematic from the inside. It looks like a delayed budget approval, a hiring freeze. So no, I'm not selling you a crash date. I'm giving you a survival frame. Stay liquid, stay skeptical, keep your exposure small enough so that bad timing does not become a life sentence.